100 years ago, an intrepid explorer arrived in the remote cloud forest of Peru in South America. Little did he know that he was about to uncover one of the greatest and most mysterious archaeological sites the world had ever seen: the lost city of Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu was built by the Inca. 500 years ago, their huge empire covered half the length of South America, rivaling the scale of ancient Rome. But their story was lost for centuries. Now, all that was about to change. Here, in this remote corner of the Andes, this spectacular ancient wonder would finally reveal the true magic of the Inca to the world. In this program, I'll uncover the remarkable story of the discovery of Machu Picchu. I'll unearth what life was really like for the people who lived in this extraordinary place. What a great bit of ancient technology. And come face to face with a 600-year-old Inca ice mummy.
Oh, that's extraordinary. It's like new, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never been this close to an Inca.
And try to unravel the mysteries of Machu Picchu. Who built this magnificent city in one of the most impossible places imaginable? And why? So this is the first written evidence about Machu Picchu and its connection with the Inca. This is one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites in the world, and its discovery is as breathtaking as the place itself. This is the story of Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu. Today, it's celebrated as one of the great wonders of the world. Its astonishing streets, houses, and temples visited by up to 1.5 million people every year. But for centuries, its very existence, like that of the Inca who built it, was all but forgotten. My journey of discovery starts in Cusco, in southern Peru. This bustling city high in the Andes Mountains is over 300 miles from the modern capital, Lima. At first glance, it looks Spanish. But dig a little deeper and you'll find an amazing, more ancient past. 500 years ago, this was the beating heart of the great Inca people. When Henry VIII was King of England, across the Atlantic, the Inca Empire was one of the largest in the world, ruling over 12 million people and stretching over 2,500 miles. And it all started with one man, the Emperor Pachacuti. Pachacuti was the Julius Caesar, the Genghis Khan of South America. His name means he who overthrows the world, the earth shaker. When he came to the throne, the Inca ruled over Cusco here and a few neighboring valleys. By the time he and his two successors were finished, the Incas had extended their rule across thousands of miles of South America, deserts, jungles, coastline, and mountains, until they controlled around half the length of the continent. But the empire wouldn't last. Just 150 years into its epic expansion, Spanish invaders arrived in Peru and set about destroying the Inca Empire, killing their leaders and taking as much gold as they could lay their hands on. In desperation, a handful of Inca royalty fled Cusco to a remote city stronghold deep in the jungle. They held out for 40 years before the Spanish finally tracked them down and put an end to the Inca dynasty once and for all. After the swift and brutal conquest of the Inca Empire, a blanket of secrecy fell across this region. The Spanish refused to allow foreign travelers here, and they focused on exploiting their new empire, extracting as much treasure as they could. Although here in Cusco and surrounding villages, there were memories, rumors of the glories of the Inca, many of their most important sites were lost and forgotten. But all that would change just over a century ago, when Peru began to open up to the world. And magnificent ruins like this one, on the edge of Cusco, became known. Part city, part fortress, it towers over the Inca capital. This is some of the most impressive, monumental historic building work that I have ever seen anywhere in the world. Just look at the size of these stones and how well they've been crafted. It's no surprise that when word of Inca ruins like this got out, and others across the country, that treasure seekers and adventurers started to appear in Peru. Evidence of spectacular Inca structures seized the imaginations of several explorers, including an American professor named Hiram Bingham. Bingham was 34 years old. He was a lecturer at Yale University in America, and he was ambitious. He wanted to make discoveries. In 1909, he came to Peru, and for the first time he arrived in Cusco. One of the first things he did was visit this massive fortress in the hills above the city, and he was blown away. He left a diary full of vivid accounts of what he saw on the trip, and he describes this place here. He said these walls look like they've been built by giants. He said they're the most impressive spectacle of man's handiwork that I've seen. Thrilled by what he'd witnessed in Cusco, Bingham set out on a mission to discover more Inca ruins, and in particular, a legendary last Inca settlement, rumored to be buried deep in the Peruvian jungle. At the time, the only description they had of a mysterious last Inca city was in accounts left by the Spanish. They describe a remote Inca stronghold in wild, jungly terrain 150 miles north of Cusco. In 1911, Bingham came back to Cusco with a team of 6 men determined to find the mysterious lost city. He began to make inquiries, and it wasn't long before he came across a lead. Just a few days after he arrived in Cusco, Bingham got a tip-off from a professor who'd heard from a man who owned a tavern that there was an Inca site to the west of the city, just above the Urubamba River. Now, Bingham's research had suggested that his lost city was in a slightly different location, but he decided to follow that tip, and he headed off northwest in that direction, down that valley. Although there was no guarantee of success, he hired a local interpreter and then set off down a rough track away from Cusco and into the depths of the jungle. I'm starting my journey by modern transport, but not for long. All the young explorer had was a dirt track and the professor's tip-off that somewhere in this wilderness there was a tavern whose owner had special information. And after several days, he managed to track him down. But before long, they faced their first obstacle. A treacherous tree trunk bridge over a freezing, swirling river. This is the Urubamba River, which Bingham and his team were forced to cross on all fours on a rickety log bridge. And the excitement then continued as he headed up into the mountains with no path in sight. For that stage of the journey, Bingham wrote in his diary, "A good part of the distance we went on all fours, sometimes holding on by our fingernails." Climbing up over 4,000 meters, the journey into the mountains is as grueling as it is spectacular. And as the trek got tougher, Bingham's team began to desert him.
This is a tough hike. It's really hot and sweaty. I'm at high altitude, so the air's very thin, I'm very breathless, and I'm getting attacked by bugs. I can really see why some of Hiram's men decided they had enough and turned round. They also wouldn't have been able to use this beautiful Incan road, which at that point had been hidden in the undergrowth, unused for centuries.
Just like the Romans over 1,000 years before, the Incas had an incredible road system extending over 25,000 miles, crisscrossing their entire empire from Colombia to Argentina. I'm currently on the world-renowned Inca Trail, which connects Cusco to Machu Picchu. But Bingham had no idea this was here, and nor did his guide. It was overgrown by jungle.
It must have been a heady mix of anticipation, exhaustion, and terror. Bingham had come all this way. He'd risked his life, potentially for nothing. 100 years ago, this was pretty much uncharted territory. He describes how he had to scale across sheer cliff faces and deal with the threat of snakes. It's no coincidence that the Indiana Jones movies, to which this hat is my personal tribute, were partly based on this very real adventure.
After days of treacherous trekking, on the 24th of July 1911, Bingham reached the top of yet another steep climb. Here, he entered a small Inca structure. And as he stepped through the door, there, on a distant mountain ridge, was Machu Picchu.
Wow. It's the most marvelous thing I think I've ever seen. Look at the way the sun is catching that hilltop city.
Having almost given up hope, Bingham's determination had finally paid off.
Maybe I'm feeling emotional. Maybe it's the huge hike to get up here. Maybe it's exhaustion, but it feels like it's so much more special because you've had to work to get here. A lot of things in life are disappointing when you've really been looking forward to them. That's not true of Machu Picchu.
Here on this remote mountain was a long-lost city. But Machu Picchu held many mysteries. And finding it was just the beginning. Over a century ago, Hiram Bingham discovered the lost city of Machu Picchu.
Look at the way the sun is catching that unspoiled royal city on a mountaintop, bathed in sunshine. Look at that.
But here's the weird thing. Bingham was a bit disappointed. It seems crazy, but this didn't match the description of the Inca fortress he was looking for. So after just a few hours here, he headed off, back into the jungle. But after weeks of searching elsewhere, he realized that nothing he'd discovered came close to these spectacular ruins high in the Andean cloud forest. It wasn't the last outpost of the Inca. It was something even more incredible. A pristine mountaintop city left untouched by the Spanish. In spring 1912, Bingham returned with a workforce of 40 people. The first thing to do was cut back the thick jungle that smothered the entire ridge. When Bingham arrived, it was very difficult for him to get a sense of the true scale, the true majesty of this site. That's because
Unlike today, the problem wasn't clouds, it was the jungle. Mature trees and vines and bushes had taken over the courtyards, the fountains, the houses. Many of them were beneath a layer of undergrowth. Some were sticking out, and I like this picture here because you can see this rounded feature, the Temple of the Sun, which you can see just over there. And it appears on this shot as well. But look how much of the rest of the site was just covered in foliage.
Bingham's team started to hack back the trees and thick undergrowth that covered the ruins. Gradually, stone by stone, building by building, the huge scale and astonishing beauty of Machu Picchu was revealed. The sight held me spellbound. I could scarcely believe my senses as I examined the larger blocks. Would anyone believe what I had found?
It's no wonder Bingham was so impressed. Just look at this wall here. I don't think I've ever seen a better example of stonemasonry, of craftsmanship. Beautifully finished giant granite blocks fitting together so perfectly, so strong, no need for mortar. You can hardly get a blade of grass in some of these gaps. As Bingham cleared away more of the undergrowth, the sheer magnitude of what he'd uncovered became apparent. Dozens of terraces supporting something like 200 structures, from smaller dwellings with high pitched roofs to storehouses. And as you go higher up through Machu Picchu, you get grander, perhaps more public spaces, big plazas like this one here, adorned with magnificent buildings and intricate temples. Eventually, more than 200 buildings were uncovered. There were houses, streets, and grand open squares. To find out more, I'm joined by someone who knows every inch of this place, Melvin Vienna. Melvin, there's so many different layers here in different areas. Give me the geography. What am I looking at?
In the lowest part of the area, we can see residences for the citizens, working areas. In the middle, a beautiful plaza. Right behind us is the farming area.
And what about up here? Are these buildings grander up here?
In the highest part of the city is where we have the most important temples, like the Temple of the Sun.
Machu Picchu is split into zones. At the top are the temples and houses for the most important people in Inca society. And below is where the ordinary folk lived and worked. Looking out at this square 600 years ago, you might have seen people trading, parties going on, or children playing. A city in full swing. And why is it here? How did they have the resources here to build this place?
This place is first magical, and I think the gods gave to the Incas the opportunity to build such an amazing city in such a complicated place.
At the top of Machu Picchu is a natural spring that provides constant fresh water. There's also a huge pile of granite blocks, enough stone to build a city and still have some left over.
And they must have been incredibly skilled because they had to be stonemasons, they had to be hydraulic engineers.
Definitely. This is a masterwork that shows the skills and the knowledge that the Incas had about engineering, astronomy, and of course, architecture as well.
They didn't have iron tools, they didn't have horses and donkeys, so it's an incredible achievement.
You know what is the secret? Teamwork. Because you can have a block like that weighs probably 60 tons. And you might say, no, it's impossible that this can be moved by men. It is possible when you all focus in the same goal. And the Incas used to live not as individuals, always as a community, as a team.
It's hard to imagine the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building this incredible place. But why go to all the effort required to build Machu Picchu, high in these remote mountains? The answer may lie at the highest point of the city, home to this mysterious stone needle. It's carved from the bedrock of the mountain, and would once have formed the natural summit of the city. Terraces and temples have been built around it.
We think there were spikes like this across the Incan Empire, but the Spanish made it their business to destroy as many of them as they could. They rightly believed that these were a central part of the old Incan religion they were trying to stamp out. This one here at Machu Picchu, therefore, is all the more special. And standing here on top of its highest point, it feels like this could have been a superconductor between the mountains and the earth and the sun, the heavens above. Magic and energy flowing between the two.
It looks like a strange sundial, and in a way it is. But instead of measuring the hours of the day, it marks the passing of the seasons. But it also sits right at the heart of this spectacular landscape. Positioned at the center of 4 snow-capped peaks that surround the city, to the north, south, east and west. The Inca believed that the mountains were alive, they were living gods, and they worshipped them. And there was a cluster of particularly important mountains in this area. And today, with the clouds swirling around this dramatic spot, I can see why. Perhaps that was the reason why the Inca chose this spot on this jungle-covered mountain ridge for their new royal city. Mountaintops were where the 3 worlds of the Inca collided. This world, the world above, and the world below. And it was on a freezing summit 300 miles away that a grisly find has revealed just how far they were prepared to go to keep their mountain gods happy.
I've come 12 hours south of Machu Picchu to the region of Arequipa. This is an area dominated by these massive snow-capped volcanic peaks, among them Mount Ampato. At over 6,000 meters, this dormant volcano is one of the highest peaks in South America. Even today, it's a hugely challenging climb. The air at the top is so thin, it's difficult to breathe. There are icy crevasses and sheer precipices. But over 500 years ago, the Inca made it to the top of the summit, and they were there for a very special, very gruesome purpose.
In 1995, archaeologist Johann Reinhardt set out to explore Mount Ampato. As he neared the summit, he was shocked when bits of cloth and small woven baskets began to appear beneath his feet.
You can imagine Reinhardt's surprise as he started seeing other items in the snow. Bits of pottery, shells, food offerings.
As they got higher, more and more objects emerged from the ice. What were they doing right up here? Where'd they come from? But nothing prepared them for what they found next.
Just a few feet from the top, Reinhardt discovered the body of a 13-year-old girl, frozen in the snow.
Wrapped in cloth, her body had been frozen for centuries, buried in icy solitude. This young girl was an Inca human sacrifice. Today, this extraordinary ice mummy is preserved in sub-zero temperatures, kept in a specially made chamber in the Andean Sanctuaries Museum in Arequipa. Normally only seen through 3 layers of protective glass in near darkness, I've been granted rare access to meet her face to face. But not before suiting up to protect both her and me from potentially harmful contamination.
My goodness, okay.
It's like a knife. Huh?
Okay, it's like a knife, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sobre la mesa, sobre la
It's
mesa.
really cold. This is an incredibly tense moment. I feel like we're responsible for one of the great treasures of history here.
Moving a 500-year-old ice mummy is an extremely delicate task. But she must be regularly weighed by museum director Franz Grupp and his team to check she's being kept at the right temperature.
It's like a new.
Oh my God, look at that. Oh, that's extraordinary. It's like new,
como,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Just look at the colours on this woven fabric
Cinco
here.
siglos de antigüedad.
For 500 years, those have been entombed in ice, and it looks like they are brand new. I've never had an experience like this. I've never been this close to an Inca, a human being, a young girl who still has so much of her humanity about her hair, her skin, her internal organs, her clothing. This is the human face of the Inca. How many years old is she?
Ella tiene como 14 años más o menos, ¿no? Ha tenido en ese momento 13 o 14 años de vida. Una niña.
Yeah, she's a child. She was sacrificed. Smothered or strike to the head.
Tuvo un golpe final en esta parte de aquí y ese es el golpe con el cual murió.
And why? Why the Inca offering their children?
Porque los niños son puros. Además, niños físicamente muy perfectos, ¿no? De buena fisonomía y todo.
And they believed the mountains were sacred, were gods.
Los incas adoraban en la naturaleza a todo lo que no podían controlar.
The Inca selected the purest in society to offer to the gods. They believed child sacrifice could prevent natural disasters like volcanic eruptions or devastating floods.
We know where this young girl came from. Was she from this area?
Los textiles son de la cultura inca y probablemente hechos en el Cusco. Probablemente.
Children were kept in Cusco, then paraded around the empire for months or even years before being sacrificed. You can imagine the girl walking through the grand plazas of Machu Picchu before ending up on the mountain where she would be killed. This museum now houses several ice mummies found on mountaintops, dressed in the finest clothes and surrounded by special silver and gold objects. Even little dolls, dressed the same as the children. They are literally frozen in time, an incredible connection to the Inca people.
Astonishing.
Es extraordinario. Es como una gran enciclopedia de todo lo que sucedía en el tiempo de los incas.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the most intense experiences I've ever had. I mean, I've worked with human remains before, but they've been bones, skeletons. I've never picked up someone who felt as alive, as human, as that young girl. I kept thinking to myself, why would a family willingly give up the most precious thing in the world? Why would they sacrifice one of their own children? It's just very difficult for us to understand today. It's just such a sobering reminder that despite all the things we admire about the Inca, life under their rule could still be brutal.
Following the discovery of this astonishing ice mummy, 18 more victims of Inca human sacrifice have been found, all on snow-capped peaks across the Incan Empire. And though there's no evidence of human sacrifice in Machu Picchu, its breathtaking mountain location lies at the heart of the Incas' decision to build it here, miles from anywhere. But what was it like to actually live here, amongst the clouds? Some amazing discoveries take us closer to the people of Machu Picchu.
I've never seen anything like that. That is incredible.
Machu Picchu is a magnificent, high-altitude city living proof of the skill and ingenuity of the Inca. They chose this remote site because of its incredible position, surrounded by sacred mountains. But who lived here? Who called this spectacular place home? When explorer Hiram Bingham came here in 1912, he first cleared the site. Then he began to look for clues about the people. And there was an obvious place to start.
Bingham started to scour this site for what he and most archaeologists at the time were particularly interested in, and that was burials. In the main urban area, they only found one burial. It was in this cave. But as they searched the surrounding jungle, they did find more and more human remains. In the end, they recovered 135 bodies from 107 different burials.
But when they examined the bones, the team was stunned by what they found.
Among the team was the American bones specialist, Dr. George Eaton, and his initial analysis threw up some very interesting results. He estimated that of all the bodies they recovered, 75% of them were female.
It was a real mystery. Why were so many more women buried here than men? Bingham had an intriguing theory that Machu Picchu was home to a sacred group of Inca women known as the Virgins of the Sun. These were young women said to have been chosen for their beauty and skill to serve the emperor, based in exclusive sites like this. The ambitious explorer was convinced that he and Dr. Eaton had made a major breakthrough regarding the inhabitants of Machu Picchu. But there was a problem with this idea.
Bingham's theory that this was a mountaintop sanctuary for the most beautiful women in the Inca Empire caught the imagination of many back home. Trouble was, it was nonsense. The analysis of the bones was all wrong. Dr. Eaton was used to working with Caucasians and African Americans. The bones found here were smaller and had more delicate features, so he got confused. In fact, we now know the remains found here were 50% male and 50% female. Bingham's Virgins of the Sun theory had come to nothing. It was back to square one.
Apart from the bones, the burials contained few clues to the people of Machu Picchu. Bingham sent boxes of his grave finds back to America, and he resolved to keep exploring the city. Bingham returned 2 years later in 1914, determined to learn more about this mysterious place. But a changing of the guard in the Peruvian government stopped him in his tracks. Just 3 years after he had discovered Machu Picchu, Bingham was suddenly thrown out of Peru. The boxes he'd sent back to America would remain at Yale University for almost a century. But in 2011, they were finally returned here to the Casa Concha Museum in Cusco, where they've revealed some surprising secrets about the people of Machu Picchu. I'm meeting bone expert Elsie Tomasto to find out more.
So what we got here?
These are the boxes that contain the bones that came from Yale.
Oh, so these are all Bingham's finds back in Peru after 100 years?
Yes, a whole century.
When archaeologists re-examined the remains, what they discovered was astonishing and would completely change our understanding of Machu Picchu. Some of the skulls have been reconstructed, and even I can see they look unusual.
Look at those skulls. What's going on with these?
They changed their shape when they were children, binding in some places, and the skull grew in the opposite direction.
In parts of the Inca Empire, parents would tightly wrap their babies' heads using cloth. deliberately giving them this distinctive head shape.
I've never seen anything like that. That is incredible. Why are people shaping their children's heads?
It was part of the identity. For example, they did these things to be similar to the mountain and also change the abilities.
It might make them cleverer.
Yes,
So this is members of the community deliberately trying to elongate the skull.
yes.
All parents want to give their children the best start in life. And 600 years ago, some believed this was a way to do it. Other skulls found at Machu Picchu are strangely shaped for a different reason. They have flat backs where babies were strapped to boards for long periods as their parents worked.
We found people from the highlands frequently showing this kind of modification, and people from the coast frequently showing this other kind.
The fact that both types of skull were found at Machu Picchu reveals a fascinating truth about the city. These individuals weren't local to the area. They were members of other tribes, conquered by the Inca during their rapid expansion.
So what does this tell us about life in Machu Picchu if these people from different parts of the empire all gathered here?
In Machu Picchu, they were a social class of servants. Incas had a practice of choosing children from, say, 8, 9 years old to do different kinds of services. So they have servants of different types that came from different parts of the empire.
The different shapes of these skulls reveal that many of the people who lived and died at Machu Picchu were an elite class of servant, trained from childhood and brought from across the empire to serve their Inca masters.
So to sort of bind the empire together, you take children from all over the empire and you raise them to be servants or builders or artists?
Yes,
or,
yes.
Wow. And these were taken away as kids and they never went home?
No, they never. It was a kind of control of the population, you know? The empire was so large that you need to control people, and one way was to move people.
It was a clever way to transport skilled workers to where they were needed and keep the huge empire under control.
It's fascinating that the Inca hand-picked people from all over the empire to come and live and work at Machu Picchu. Along with the size of the place, the magnificence of the buildings, that does strongly suggest that it was an important settlement.
For experts, this was a watershed moment. And there are more clues to the people who lived in Machu Picchu if you know where to look. I'm going to find out exactly what life was like for the people at the top of Inca society. Who would live in a grand house like this? Machu Picchu is a masterpiece. A mountaintop city home to people from all over the massive Inca Empire, including skilled servants, trained from birth to serve the Inca elite who stayed here. To this day, there are special parts of Machu Picchu that us ordinary folk aren't usually allowed to visit. But today, I've got a VIP pass to explore the city with leading Machu Picchu historian Jose Bastante.
So Jose, what are we looking at here?
The most probable thing is that these were housing for the elites.
So these would have been the aristocrats.
Correct.
2 stories high, with golden thatched roofs, the dwellings in this exclusive neighborhood have up to 3 rooms overlooking a private central courtyard. This is where the cream of Inca society would have lived. But it was also a place of intrigue. The homes here are linked by a sort of corridor of power, connecting these 3 wealthy houses and their inhabitants.
I bet they're having important political conversations in
Oh,
these
definitely,
corridors as
and they
well.
can hear each other.
Yeah. Who's going to be the next Inca? Who's going to be the next leader? Negotiations going on. So this is the kind of place where The fate of the empire is being discussed. So how many people would have been in this space?
Well, roughly we can count around 8 people. The elites were allowed to have more than one wife.
Inca aristocrats usually had a principal wife, as well as several others, a visible sign of their wealth and status.
So that might have got a bit cozy in here.
Yes, definitely.
Machu Picchu was home to around 400 people, from aristocrats to priests, astronomers, craftspeople, and servants. But even in the houses of the well-to-do, a surprising thing was missing.
What are these niches in the walls here?
Well, we have to remember that the Incas didn't have furniture, so they needed a place where they can put their objects.
So there's no chairs, no kind of wooden furniture?
No chairs, no drawers, no tables. They will eat on the floor.
And are people sleeping on the floor?
Yes.
Okay.
Only the emperor was allowed even a stool to sit on, and that was only 20 centimeters tall. But if this was where the masters lived, where were the servants?
So these could have served as servant quarters.
These ones here, yeah?
Yes.
What a view.
Yeah, it's impressive, really. But you see that line over there? Well, on the sides of this path, we have figured out that there is houses where the bulk of the servants will live.
So that's quite a commute, all the way down there, down into the valley, and then right up the side of the hill.
Yes, but if you are prepared, you can do it in 40 minutes.
Maybe you can. I'm not sure I could.
Walking around the houses of the people that called Machu Picchu home, I'm starting to get a sense of everyday life here. Intrigues and rivalries of the Inca upper classes. Workers and servants going about their daily tasks, weaving, goldsmithing, cooking, and growing food.
But Machu Picchu wasn't a self-sufficient paradise. Analysis of the site shows that 90% of the farming terraces that surround it only grew one type of corn, and not enough to feed everyone living here. Evidence has also been found of more varied and exotic foods such as passion fruit, peanuts and garlic, impossible to grow on the exposed mountain. But where it came from and how it got here was a mystery.
Then, in 1932, just over 20 miles from here, something incredible was discovered. A farming marvel that reveals how the Inca managed to survive in this remote, high-altitude city.
This extraordinary man-made crater is absolutely enormous. This one I'm standing in now is about 30 meters in depth. And not only is it beautiful to look at, it produced an abundance of food, some of which may even have got as far as Machu Picchu. And this wasn't just a simple farm. This was a gigantic food laboratory.
Perched at 3,500 meters on a high mountain plateau between Cusco and Machu Picchu, the spectacular Moray terraces dominate the landscape. Experts now believe this was a scientific testing ground where the Inca experimented with different crops at different levels, even importing different soils from around the empire.
The science behind these huge terraces is just so clever. These walls, for example, the stone sucks up the heat of the sun during the day and then radiates it out at night, protecting the crops here from the cold mountain temperatures. And then you've got the different altitudes of all the terraces and their different relationship with the sun and the wind. It means you get different temperatures in as much as 12 degrees from top to bottom. So you can grow food from all over the empire in lots of different microclimates.
Here, the Inca could grow quinoa, potatoes, tomatoes, and pumpkins, crops that wouldn't naturally survive in the harsher regions of their empire. And this incredible technology wasn't only a great source of food, it was also a powerful tool they used to expand their empire.
The Inca conquered hundreds of tribes in the space of just a couple of generations. But they didn't just do that through brute force and violence. They also used diplomacy, and sites like this were vital because they could grow lots of food in places like this. And that was then stored in huge warehouses and distributed throughout the empire. That meant the deal was pretty simple. If you worked in the role you were given by the Inca, you were then supplied with beer, with food. You might even get some land and a house. But just in case, the Inca maintained a large standing army.
It was a clever tactic that allowed them to expand their territory at incredible speed. I want to get a taste of what life might have been like for the people living at Machu Picchu. So I've come to a nearby town to try an Inca speciality that we know would have been eaten in the city 600 years ago. Freeze-dried potato soup.
Hello.
Sounds intriguing.
Yes. How are you?
Wow, muy alto.
Yes.
Muy alto.
Very tall, yeah. Right, we're going to do some cooking.
My expert teacher is Inca descendant Elena.
And this is very traditional, this food? Is this the same recipe that's been going for hundreds of years up here?
Ese es de los incas.
Incas?
Sí,
This is what the
chuño,
Incas
papa.
ate?
Sí, chuño.
So that's why the Incas are so strong.
Testing my chopping skills. There's all sorts of ingredients going into this soup. Carrots, beans, herbs, meat, and of course, the star ingredient.
Ayuda.
Okay, here we go. Here's the freeze-dried.
Yeah.
But now these are soft.
Es remojado.
So these have been all night in water.
These ones have been rehydrated, but a typical freeze-dried potato is as solid as a rock. They're traditionally made in winter. All you have to do is leave your potatoes out overnight to freeze and then dry them in the winter sun. And hey presto, a freeze-dried potato, Inca style.
So how long did this last? I mean,
Un año, 2 años.
1 or 2 years? Great. That's good. And you can just take a bunch of those in your backpack and the army it's got rations for a long march. It's so funny because we're so used to potatoes all over the world, but they originally came from here. So
Sí,
before Christopher Columbus hit the Americas, no European had ever tasted potato.
sí. Hay jumpis, sica, martillo.
So those are the Quechua names for potatoes. Do you still speak Quechua up in the mountains? And you talk to your family, your neighbors in Quechua? And that's the same language that Inca spoke.
Sí, desde los incas.
So you eat the same food as the Inca, you speak the same language. Are you Inca?
Sí. Claro, sí. Somos todavía.
you are.
While the freeze-dried potato soup cooks, there's another Inca delicacy I'm itching to try. Chicha beer.
Ay, picha más.
What? Is this chicha?
Chicha.
Wow. Shall I hold that? And this is made from?
De maíz.
This is made from maize. There's a good head on that. For Pachatera, for Mother Earth.
Pachamama.
Pachamama. Okay, that's for you. Thank you, Mother Earth. I
Salud.
think. Salud.
The Inca loved their beer. It's made from fermented corn and would have been drunk every day in Machu Picchu, as well as given as gifts, used in ceremonies, and consumed in huge quantities at festivals.
Es natural, nada de azúcar. Natural es.
Yeah, not very natural. Yeah, no sugar.
Now, time for the main event, freeze-dried potato soup.
This is the big moment. Thank you very much. Oh, that looks amazing. Let's eat it. It's just so clever that the Incas had freeze-dried potatoes. You dehydrate it, you rehydrate it, and then you got it. It's like an Inca pot noodle. Delicious.
Rico.
Rico.
It's wonderful to imagine the people of Machu Picchu eating the same food as I've enjoyed today. And it's made me think about the place a little differently.
When you're looking at the Inca, it's very easy to get distracted by what's going on with the rich and powerful, those wonderful temples and palaces, all that gold. But what I really learned from hanging out with Elena and her family was what life was like for the millions of normal people who lived under the Incas' rule. And that's possible because up here in the Andes, there are still so many people like Elena who speak the language of the Inca. They still cook using those wonderful ingredients that the Inca would have used. They still follow some of those Inca traditions. Even though we're separated by 500 years, it still feels like the Inca are pretty close at hand.
We now know that the people who lived and worked in Machu Picchu came from all over the empire, and that despite the difficulty of growing food, they would have been well fed, and maybe even given a house like this one on the outskirts of the city.
This one has been reconstructed, and you can see just how effective this thatch is. Even on a rainy day like this, the water's hitting the outer layer of thatch and it's running off, dripping down to the ground below. Inside here, it's warm and dry. The walls of these dwellings would have been plastered, beautiful colours, there would have been textiles hanging from them, and on the floor, there would have been cosy beds made from llama skins. It's just an important reminder that whilst we see this as a wonder of the world, for these people, it was home.
But there's a question that remained unanswered. Who on earth could have built this incredible city? For centuries, it remained a mystery, partly because the Inca had no written records. But then, 70 years after its discovery, hidden in ancient Spanish documents, an astonishing find would change the story of Machu Picchu forever.
It's really exciting. It's all there.
Machu Picchu is a miraculous Inca masterpiece. In its heyday, it was home to people from all over the empire, before being abandoned and left to the jungle. Decades after its rediscovery, the mystery of who built this astonishing city remained unsolved. But that was about to change.
I've come to the regional archives of Cusco, where there are some real treasures, including a document that was only rediscovered in the 1980s, having been hidden for centuries. In it, there are some fascinating revelations about Machu Picchu.
There are thousands upon thousands of ancient Spanish papers here. Archivist Javier looks after these incredible documents, some dating back to just a few years after the last of the Inca left Machu Picchu 500 years ago. With no written records from the Inca themselves, these Spanish texts are the closest thing that we have to a contemporary account. But deciphering them isn't easy.
I'm glad you're reading this. I could not read that. Okay.
This stunning manuscript is actually an ancient survey, taken just 30 years after the Spanish invasion. In it, the new Spanish governor of Peru is trying to find out who owned the land along the Urubamba River, including Machu Picchu.
So what does he discover? Let's find out.
Here we have the mention of Picchu, right here.
So we call it Machu Picchu now, but in this document it appears as that's Picchu there, is it? And do we think, is that the first time we see the name written down in a Spanish source?
For now, we can say that yes.
The governor's investigators interrogate the local people, who tell them Machu Picchu now lies empty and abandoned. But the documents contain some even more important information. the locals know which emperor Machu Picchu once belonged to.
We can find the name of Inca Yupanqui or Pachacute,
And that's Pachacuti.
but the land belongs to Pachacute.
Really? That's what they discovered?
Yeah.
This astonishing document reveals that Machu Picchu was owned and probably built by the great founder of the Inca Empire. When Pachacuti died, it was left to his family, before being abandoned altogether.
So here we've got the Spanish recording that the land all around Machu Picchu was owned by Pachacuti and his successors. That's very special.
Yeah.
According to the local people that live there, it's their testimony. That is amazing. It's all there.
The discovery that Machu Picchu was a royal mountaintop residence for Pachacuti was a major breakthrough. It's now believed that this extraordinary city was the emperor's winter retreat, a secluded center of Inca power from where Pachacuti could oversee his empire and kick back with his royal entourage. Hunting deer, feasting on alpaca and roasted guinea pig, and savoring the spectacular surroundings. Local expert Melvin can fill me in on how the emperor enjoyed Machu Picchu.
What was life here under Pachacuti?
His palace was in Cusco, the capital, but this place was like his favorite royal residence. He used to run away from the cold weather. Machu Picchu is like the rainforest, so the weather, even if it gets cloudy, is always nice.
And when he arrived here, would there be festivities and celebrations out here?
Definitely, the kings were gods, and they were treated like that.
Even though he's in this remote setting, is he still able to command and control his empire?
Definitely.
There were at least 9 roads leading to Machu Picchu, which not only carried food, goods, and people, but also messages brought by specially trained runners traveling up to 30 miles a day, allowing Pachacuti to govern his growing empire, even from all the way up here in the mountains. But there was a challenge. The Inca hadn't invented writing.
But there was no alphabet, so there was no written language, so it must have been quite hard to relay messages.
Actually, they had a formal writing called quipus.
Is that the quipu there?
Yes, it is. Take a look.
I've heard about these, I've never seen them. Wow.
The quipus could be big like this, small, they could be colorful, they could be plain colors.
Differing knots, string lengths, and colors were used to record lists and records, births and deaths, or harvests. They were so complex, they could only be understood by specially trained quipu readers.
So different colors, different lengths, knots at different points. It's like a huge spreadsheet.
And it was more than just a counting system. People believed that they were able to put in these quipus songs, poetry, history.
That is some clever ancient technology right there.
It's extraordinary to think of Pachacuti masterminding the expansion of his vast empire from up here in the clouds. He chose this place because of its spectacular location at the center of 4 sacred peaks. And perched perfectly between the earth and sky, it seems a fitting refuge for an emperor who was regarded as the direct descendant of the sun itself. But even an all-powerful living god needs somewhere to lay his head. Further investigation has now revealed where Pachacuti probably ate, slept, and kept himself squeaky clean, including a luxury bathroom suitable for the #1 Inca.
This could well have been Pachacuti's toilet.
We now know the magical Inca city of Machu Picchu was created for Emperor Pachacuti, high in the Andes Mountains. And in the heart of the city lies an aqueduct channeling water to the most important buildings. It's a clue that this was once the home of the emperor himself. There are many residential buildings here in Machu Picchu, but this one feels particularly special. It's right next door to the Temple of the Sun. It's got its own entrance right here, quite narrow, and inside it's got a very particular feature. It's the only residential structure which is connected to the aqueduct. It's got fresh water running through it. You can see the channels here running through this courtyard. And in here, it's got a feature that we believe is unique. It's got its own private supply of water and a toilet. And here it is. The water from the aqueduct forms a pool here and then takes any waste products down in a drain that runs under this floor. Now, if this is the only house in Machu Picchu with its own private water supply, it strongly suggests the person living here was a VIP, perhaps even the emperor himself. This could well have been Pachacuti's toilet. Access to this exclusive residence would have been highly restricted. The emperor was considered so holy, anything he touched would be burnt and the ashes thrown into the air. There's even an account that women in the emperor's entourage were required to catch his spit so it didn't fall on the ground. Just shows how much they believed in this idea that he was indeed a living god. So clearly his personal hygiene and cleanliness was very important, and that's why when archaeologists found this house, the only one with lovely channels of water like this running through it, they assumed it must belong to the emperor. Here was a place which was intimate, private, and he could carry out his daily rituals with a little bit of royal dignity. For Pachacuti, the decision to build here was about more than the unique mountain location. It was also about water and total cleanliness. In recent years, researchers have explored the deep valley below Machu Picchu and a mysterious site right beside the banks of the river. There's just so much water here. Not only does it rain more than nearly anywhere else in North or South America, but these hills are alive with freshwater springs. And in the bottom of the valley here, you have the Urubamba River coursing through. In 2021, a Polish research team used new technology to analyze a strange group of buildings that lie right on the main route into Machu Picchu. And they discovered something fascinating. The data shows that this was a place with a special purpose for making sure visitors to the site are suitably prepared to be received by the emperor. Archaeologists had noticed these little channels seemingly bringing down water from the mountains, but recent research done in the last few years using cutting-edge LiDAR technology has demonstrated that, in fact, these channels are connected to a vast network of hydraulic engineering up there, making sure that water can be regulated and delivered down here on demand. That could only mean one thing. Experts now believe that these were bathtubs. There were 14 of them, and they were for ritual cleansing. Elite visitors to Machu Picchu would stop here, be washed by the waters from the mountain for continuing their journey up. Only having been here and having been purified, cleaned, would they be ready to be received by Pachacuti. Pachacuti was showing how he could control nature by constructing this elaborate bathing station and making sure visitors coming to see him in Machu Picchu were clean before they got anywhere near him. Machu Picchu is a world of mountains and water. There are up to 85 structures around here designed to control its flow through the buildings and down the slopes. It's yet another reason why Pachacuti chose this dazzling landscape, full of natural springs, to build his wonder of the world.
Pachacuti was a great emperor. He managed to conquer a vast swathe of South America with a clever combination of persuasion and force. It's little wonder that his perfect mountaintop city has come to represent the pinnacle of Inca achievement. It's an engineering marvel that both celebrates the natural world and thrives in it.
Coming here, you can see why the Inca believed nature created this perfect setting for them to build their masterpiece. The astonishing preservation of Machu Picchu has revealed so much about the Inca people and their empire, from what they ate to how they lived with their gods amongst the mountains.
It's wonderful that we now know so much about this magical, incredible place and the people who built it. To come here is to go on a journey right into the heart of the Inca world.
For more of Dan Snow's historical adventures from Pompeii to the Colosseum, stream now on 5. Next Thursday, one of the capital's most famous luxury hotels with an incredible history. Discover the story of the Savoy, great hotels through time, brand new at 9. Next tonight, A&E After Dark.